Welcome to the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. I am Matt Brick, your host. I'm joined by the commish, Henry Brick, and Jeff Hathcock. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning, gentlemen. Another week of football, week 11. Here we go. Getting down to the wire. Only a couple weeks left until the playoffs. I'm excited.
That is right. Very exciting.
I'm ready for a big week. We had a great game on Thursday night where the beloved Philadelphia Eagles crushed the Commanders and had a lot of amazing fantasy points by one. Saquon Barkley. Loved it.
All right, let's get right into the news and notes. Like you said, Henry, the Eagles beat the Commanders 26-18 on Thursday Night Football. They dominated. I mean, you're right. Saquon put up 2 touchdowns. I think it was 158 yards or something like that.
146 yards
46,
rushing,
okay.
2 catches for 50, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, pretty outstanding performance. All right, let's get into player designations here. We have people that are out: Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid, Tank Bigsby, Keon Coleman, Isaiah Pacheco, Trevor Lawrence, Noah Fant, Jamal Williams, and that's it for offense. Okay, questionable. The list here is CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Jalen Warren is expected to play, Devontae Adams, George Kittle, Tyler Boyd. That's it. Good to go. DK Metcalf, Nico Collins, Tyreek Hill, Drake London, CMC, Christian McCaffrey, Darnell Mooney, Michael Pittman Jr., Brian Thomas Jr., Najee Harris, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud, Sam Darnold, T. Higgins, Juwan Jennings, Jacoby Myers, DeAndre Hopkins, Jake Ferguson, Kareem Hunt, Gus Edwards, Juju Smith-Schuster, Isaiah Likely, Hunter Henry, Tyler Algier, Jordan Love, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins, Damian Pierce, and that is it. A lot of guys hurt. Yikes. But they're good to go. Those are the good to go people. I did see also Harrison Bucker, unfortunately, is on IR. He has to get his meniscus trimmed, so keep that in mind. Did I say George Kittle at any point? I feel like I don't know if I did or not.
Kittle is unlikely.
It's crazy how many.
Yeah, I just read George Kittle is unlikely to play. Yeah, so.
Crazy how many kickers have been hurt this year. I've never seen this many kickers get hurt on my years of fantasy. It's unbelievable.
Well, it's a tough position to play. It's really hard nosed. So it's expected with the territory. Unfortunate, but it happens.
All right, let's go right into the news. All right, I already did the news and notes. Let's do stardom, sit-em. Commish, why don't you start with your stardoms of the week?
Okay, my stardoms of the week. I've got Russell Wilson. He plays the dreaded Ravens, who have no defense this year. His average depth of throw is over 10.4 yards, which is the second highest in the league. So make sure Russell gets in your lineup this week. I also like him throwing to, we could always say, yeah, George Pickens. I mean, absolutely. But I like, on the other side, Mike Williams, who put up a really nice bomber touchdown last week. Ravens are horrible against the pass, giving up 139.6 yards per game to the wide receiver. And then finally, I like Khalil Shakir. Matt, one of your favorite guys. There's no Cooper this week. There's no Keon Coleman. Chiefs allow fourth most points to the wide receiver in the slot. And that's primarily where Shakir runs out of. So make sure you get him in your lineup, especially maybe a DFS today.
All right, Jeff, give us your stardoms of the week.
Yeah. So following suit with Henry, I've got Russell the Love Muscle. I think he's going up against this Ravens defense. They're really weak against the the wide receiver QB combo, as you can see with Jamar Chase from last week, who had a incredible uh, a game winning thing just by himself. Wilson scored at least 18 fantasy points in two of his last three starts with Pittsburgh, and he's scoring three touchdowns in both of those games. The only game he disappointed in was against the Giants when he just scored, I believe it was like 14 fantasy points, but they really didn't need to do much against that Giants team. So I got Russell Wilson as a smash start today. I think he's going to show up. I think him and George Pickens are going to have themselves a day. Um, and I also have David Montgomery. I mean, whether you have Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery, I think they're a smash start. This backfield is going to eat today against this Jacksonville defense that just cannot stop anything. I'm expecting David Montgomery to get a lot of work. I don't think they're going to have to throw the ball much, so I think this is definitely a Monty kind of grinded out game. I think Gibbs will get his definitely get his due too, but I definitely think Monty, being that power, smash mouth back, he's going to have himself a great game. Um, both Gibbs and Monty, they're great this year. They're each ranking top five in running backs right now in rushing touchdowns this season, which is insane to have two guys ranked in the top five. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they've allowed the third most fantasy points per game in rushing touchdowns to running backs over the season. So I think that's a smash start for Montgomery. And then I'm going with my boy Debo. I think he's gonna bounce back. He's had a couple decent games this year, but I really think this is a smash start for Debo. Against the Seattle Seahawks, these are his fantasy points. He's had 19, 25, 36, 15, 39, 22, 34, and 21. Now, that's insane. He's averaging 110 receiving yards per game against the Seattle Seahawks, 128 scrimmage yards per game, and he scored 8 touchdowns over 8 career matchups against the Seahawks. He just feasts against his team. If you don't have Deebo Samuel as a start this week, I feel for you because I think he's going to have one of those top five wide receiver weeks on the week. But that's what I got, Matt. How are you feeling this week?
Yeah, this week I am starting George Pickens. I love him against the Ravens this week. I'm pretty sure that's who they play. Yeah, and they're just one of the worst against the pass, and I just think that George Pickens is gonna ball out. I mean, surprisingly, in my opinion, I mean, I was doubting Russ going into this this Steelers offense, and he's kind of been showing up. I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird. We haven't really seen Russ play as high caliber as this since he was in Seattle, and yeah, I mean, he's making George Pickens who he should be. Like he's playing at a high level, and I think George Pickens is a must start against the Ravens. It's going to be a great game. It's a rivalry game. It's great to see Tomlin and Harbaugh after so many years of coaching. So George Pickens, go put him in your lineup. I also have Justin Herbert against the Bengals. The Bengals defense has just been not so great this year. I was able to pick Justin Herbert off of the waiver wire in one league, so he is out there. I just think that he's going to ball out today. That's on Sunday Night Football this tonight. So I think that Herbert will have a great game. And thirdly, I have Jahmyr Gibbs against the Jags. They don't have the best rushing defense, so I think it's not just Gibbs, but of course Montgomery will have a great game too. But I think Gibbs can also have a good chunk plays and maybe even score as well. All right, why don't we go into the sit-ems? Let's do that. Jeff, why don't you start us off?
Yeah. So just looking at my sims real quick. It's kind of tough for me, but Tony Pollard he's been great this year. A lot of people were kind of down on him after he had that bad year. With the Cowboys. I do not think he gets it done for us today. I know he's been a great pickup for a lot of teams, myself included. But this Minnesota front, they are not to be messed with. Ty Spears is also back from injury. Last week, Pollard, he's going to play, but he was hurt coming into the week, and he received
He's
his
got a foot, Jeff.
he's, he's got a foot, yeah,
He's got a foot injury, so
yeah,
that may add to with Taj
exactly.
back.
Yeah, so I feel like he's been awesome. I mean, I've had him in a few leagues, and I picked him up super late in drafts. And he's been a good start. But with Spears back, I just Pollard only had 9 carries last week. A season low, 53% of the offensive snaps in week 10. I think the Titans are gonna have to throw the ball. I think it's gonna be, if anything, with Will Levis coming back, I think they're going to throw the ball more. I think Calvin Ridley right now is a nice start, especially because you can throw on Minnesota, but running the ball is incredibly tough. So Pollard's a big sit for me. Um, I also don't like Kirk Cousins this week. Kirk Cousins, he's been playing well. I mean, he's had a couple, blow up games, and other games he's kind of like, faded away. I think if anything, going up against that Denver secondary, there's been 2 games that Kirk Cousins has scored 18 plus fantasy points this season. Both of them came against the Bucks. It's an incredibly bad pass defense. In 6 of his 8 other games this season, he's done fewer than 13.6 in fantasy points. And he's struggled on the road throughout his career, especially in cold environments. And it doesn't get much colder than Denver, even though it's just we're getting into November here. So I think he's going to struggle. I think if anything, you can look for Bijan to have a better day, maybe even Tyler Algier on the ground. But through the air, if you've got Kirk Cousins, I feel for you, because he's definitely a sit for me. And I mean, listen, Cooper Rush is nothing pretty. I don't like Jake Ferguson this week. I know a lot of people, especially with Kittle being out, a lot of people are scrambling for that some tight end talent. I don't like Jake Ferguson. I don't like much of Dallas's offense this week, to be honest with you. And that's speaking. I have Daddle in one league. I have CD in another. Like this entire offense, I mean, I don't know what it's going to look like. It's not pretty, but I know if couple people are looking at, Laporte is out, Kittle's likely to miss, but Jake Ferguson is not the answer this week, gentlemen. I would say very far away from this Dallas offense. You might even see Trey Lance in this game. Again, against for a Monday night game, I wouldn't want to put all my eggs in one basket on Jake Ferguson. That's for sure. But those are my sits.
All right, Kumesh, give us your sits of the week.
Yeah, talk about that Monday night game. That's a game that should be flexed out. The idea of flexing games out of prime time is so we don't get Dallas without Dak Prescott on Monday Night Football. It's crazy to me. Crazy how they don't use it to what it was meant to be. Okay, so listen, my sits of the week, I have some pretty strong names here. And let me say this, if you're in I definitely wouldn't use them in DFS. I would say for your regular leagues, you're probably going to have to start these guys if you have them, but you got to temper expectations. I have people coming up to me all the time. Come in, who do I start? Should I start this guy? Should I not? Just like, for instance, Thursday night, I got the question about scary Terry McLaurin, and I said I wouldn't start him, and he was going up against Quintana Bay, as you called him, Matt. And what happened? He got one catch in that game because he faced a very tough corner, and that catch was not even against Quentin Mitchell. So my sits of the week would be Drake London. He's going to be shadowed all day by Mr. Patrick Surtain. So, as you're talking about Kirky Cousins having a tough game, Jeff, I think Drake also feels the wrath with Surtain on him. Surtain's one of the top, corners in the league. Also, Puka Nakua, he'll be shadowed against Christian Gonzalez. So I think it's going to be a tough game for him. Puka will get his again. You got to temper expectations, and then of course there's Josh Downs who will be facing Mr. Sauce Garner with the Jets. Garner has been also one of the top corners in the league. And not only that, I think AR is back this week. They took out Flacco, and that kills all the receivers on the Colts. But money talks. They picked AR high, and so they're going to play him. And Josh Downs suffers with that and going up against Sauce Gardner. So again, if you have these guys, you're probably going to start them because you have to. But you really got to temper expectations, and hopefully you can make it up in other places on your team today.
All right, excellent analysis for who to sit today. I am also following suit with the Falcons. Unfortunately, I have Kirk Cousins in our Dynasty League and have to start him due to Dak Prescott being out for the season. But I'm saying to sit Ray McCloud today against the Broncos. I feel like this Falcons offense has really just been running through Drake London, has been running through Darnell Mooney, and has running through, dare I say, Kyle Pitts. I'm still a believer. Yeah, so I'm sitting Ray McCloud this week. I don't like it as much. I mean, I'm sure he'll catch a ball or two, but I just think that they're going to be running the ball, and it should be a Mooney, Kyle Pitts, yes, Drake London show. So keep that in mind while you watch today. I also have Geno Smith as a sit today against the Niners. It's a rivalry game. They know each other well. The Niners defense, whether you like it or not, is still a really good defense. And I just think that there are better options today than starting Geno Smith. So I'm mentioning Geno. And last but not least, I am sitting Rico Dowdle against the Texans. Yes, I know that the Texans do have a decent run defense. I just think that Dallas is just, they're playing for draft picks at this point. I mean, like Jeff said, Trey Lance might be in this game, which is, I mean, they shouldn't have even put him in the last game because he looked so terrible. Cooper Rush clearly isn't, I mean, especially against, the Eagles, he did not perform. But yeah, I don't like Dowdle on Monday night. I don't think it's the best matchup. So yeah, that's going to be my sits of the week. Let's start with let's start our DFS lineup of the week. I'll go first. Why not? Let's see here. We are in week 11. All right. So my DFS lineup of the week. These are DraftKings numbers. I have Russell Wilson at 5,900 as my quarterback. Like I said earlier, it's Steelers-Ravens. Ravens don't have a great passing defense, so I'm going with Russ at 5,900. One of my starts of the week, Jahmyr Gibbs at running back at 7,300. They play who do they play? Lions play. They play the Jags. Thank you. Yeah, and like I said, they don't. I just think that the Lions running backs are going to be able to feast today, and I'm just choosing Gibbs because that's the guy I like today. I wouldn't be surprised if you went with Montgomery. He is a cheaper option, I believe, at 6,500. So I like Gibbs though at 7,300. The other running back I'm choosing today is Kareem Hunt. The Chiefs play the Bills, which is going to be a great game. The Bills always play them tough. The Bills are favored, so keep that in mind. They are minus 130 right now at the money line, 2-point favorites. But of course I picked Kareem Hunt. So yeah, I like Hunt. I think he's a good value there, 6,700. So that's why I went with Hunt. I took the stack with George Pickens at 7K there. Russ and Pickens, I think they're gonna they might be the best quarterback wide receiver duo this weekend. So that's why I'm going with them. I also went with Deebo Samuel at 6,800. They play the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks defense just clearly isn't as good as the 49ers defense. And I think that Deebo is going to have a great game today. So that's why I'm locking in Deebo at 6,800. In the flex position, I went with a guy named Elijah Moore, 4,300. Moore and Cedric Tillman, I feel like are actually playing good ball now that Jameis Winston is the quarterback. They play the Saints today. I just think that Moore and Tillman are going to be able to catch some balls today, and I like Moore at 4,300. It's a phenomenal value for a low grade wide receiver 1, high grade wide receiver 2. So I like Moore there at my flex. My tight end is Jonnu Smith at 3,800. The Dolphins play who do they play? The Raiders today. The Raiders defense isn't that good. It's another team that's kind of just poverty right now. And at least to say the Dolphins are in poverty. They are 3-6. Raiders are 2-7. But I just think that the Dolphins are gonna win this game. They were able to beat the Rams not so long on Sunday Night Football. Was that Sunday Night Football? I think it was. The other night. So yeah, I like Jonnu Smith there at 3,800 for my tight end. Oh wait, that wasn't even my flex spot. My apologies. Elijah Moore was my third wide receiver. I have MVS in my flex spot at 4,400. He was able to catch those 2 touchdowns last week for the Saints, and I mean, why not? Why not see what he can do today? I mean, they play the Browns. I'm sure it'll be a good matchup. Derek Carr is going to have to throw the ball to someone, and I'm sure that someone will be MVS. I'm sure he'll get a decent amount of targets there. So I'm going with MVS with my flex spot of 4,400. And finally, my defense is the Vikings defense at 3,700. The Vikings defense has been phenomenal this year. I have them in a couple leagues. They normally find a way to take the ball away. So that helps me out. They play the Titans today, who are horrible, 2-7. I mean, the Vikings are favored to win. They're 6-point favorites against the Titans. So I'm going with the Vikings defense today at 3,700. All right, gentlemen. Kamish, why don't you give us your DFS lineup of the week?
You got it, Matt. Okay, I'm gonna go with. I made a couple adjustments while you guys were talking, and I wanted to change it up because I noticed we all had Russell Wilson at quarterback, so I changed it up a little bit. I went with Justin Herbert on Sunday Night Football at home against the Bengals. He's only 5,300. He is a bargain. You talked about him earlier in your must starts today, Matt, and I agree with you. So I'm putting Herbert in my DFS. I'm also going at running back David Montgomery. I know Jeff and you both like the running backs for the Lions today. Montgomery at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars gets it done at 6,500. Great value there. I'm going with Aldrick Estime as my other running back. He has been taking over the lead role over Javonte Williams, who is not in big favor with the head coach there in Denver. He's at home against Atlanta, who isn't all that wonderful against run. And at 4,500, it's such a deal. Okay, with Herbert as my quarterback, I like him throwing the ball to Mr. Lad McConkey. $6,200. Georgie Pickens, I had to stick with him because Baltimore is just atrocious against the pass, giving up that 139 yards for wide receivers. Calvin Ridley at home against the Minnesota Vikings, who I believe are 30th or 31st against the pass. So Ridley is a really great start today at wide receiver. At tight end, I got Evan Ingram. He is on the road against Detroit. Of course, It's I think Mac Jones is the quarterback who's terrible, and he'll be throwing a lot to Evan Ingram as that game goes on, especially playing from behind because Detroit will go up big on them. 5,200. I think he's a great start at tight end today. In my flex position, yes, it's a blast from the past, but I think he's ready for prime time. Mr. Nicholas Chubb, former Georgia Bulldog, plays the Saints, who are horrific against the run. $6,000 on DraftKings, a great start. I think will just add to my giant lead in this whole DFS situation that we're in. And finally, on defense, I like the Texans D playing Dallas, and it doesn't matter who's quarterback, Cooper Rush or Trey Lance, they all stink. 3,100 Texans will have a few picks and maybe even one pick six there on Monday Night Football. So, gentlemen, please take notes of all these things. I want you both to make some money today. Get them in your lineup, and you can thank me later. You take me to lunch, whatever you think about it.
All right, Jeff, give us your DFS line of the week, please.
Yeah. So I mean, again, Russell Wilson, I'm high on him. He's, for me, 5,900 is an absolute steal. Everyone's high on them this week. Some people are thinking it's a trap game, and I have to go with that. It's such a good for $5,900. Russell Wilson's just a smash start for me. David Montgomery, I have him for 6,500. Again, start of the week for me. I think he's going to have a wonderful game. Him and Gibbs, but definitely taking the better value here at 6,500. I've got Kyron Williams, 7,900. I think the last couple of weeks they've had kind of down games. And he managed to not get in the end zone these last 2 weeks, but I think he definitely finds his way back in there again. With the stack with Russ, I have George Pickens. Again, I think he's for the rest of this year. I think he's a wide receiver one. Um, I know he's had his weeks in the past where he didn't really produce much, but if you look at what plays he was hitting on, and then the plays were called back because of things like holding on the offensive line or things of that nature, penalties that have taken back those big plays. I think George Pickens is not only a great play today, a great play rest of the season. So I know trade deadlines and stuff like that are coming up for a lot of leagues. If you are really hurting and you're thinking, I believe in George Pickens so much in for the rest of the season, if you were willing to give up CD Lamb for George Pickens, I'd say go ahead and do it. That's the type of production I think he's going to have. I think CD's going to be okay rest of the season, but I definitely could see myself trading for George Pickens and giving up value like that. I've also got Calvin Ridley today, 6,200. Again, I don't think Tennessee's going to be able to run the ball. Pollard's going injured. Tyjae Spears is back, but I just don't think they can get the job done against Minnesota, who's just so stout up front. So Calvin Ridley, I think he has his big game today. Cedric Tillman, 5,300. Jameis is going to throw the ball. That's just it's what they're going to do. I definitely think against the Saints team, Chubb could have a decent day, but I just got Cedric Tillman in there. I think he's definitely the wide receiver one in this group. At tight end, I got David Allen. I have Colby Parkinson in a few leagues. I had to pick him up because of injuries at tight end. And, Colby Parkinson was out-snapped once David Allen got back into the lineup for the Rams. I think he's just for $2,500, he can catch 5-6 balls with this team and be serviceable. In the flex spot, I got Raheem Mostert. I think the Dolphins are going to run the ball. I think they're going to just run the ball heavy against this Raiders team that can't stop a nosebleed. And Achane could have a big day too, but I think Mostert, just the way the Dolphins want to kind of slow the game down, maybe not put two in so many situations where he can get crushed. I think Mostert has himself a great game. And then for defense, I'm going with the Browns. I definitely think against this Saints team that is all battered, beaten, and broken, they don't have offensive weapons. And I think they can definitely put a hurting on that team today.
And it's a revenge game for one Jameson Winston, right?
That's right.
Love that. And you make a great point about CD Lamb, Jeff. The sun is always getting in his eyes, so
Yeah.
great
Well, I
great
mean,
player to trade.
yeah. I mean, if you can't take advantage of your home field advantage, like what good are you, right?
Such a Jerry move. I love
Yeah.
it.
All right, let's get into our waiver wire pickups this week. Kamish, why don't you start us off?
Okay, Matt. Let's see. My waiver wire pickups. I got three guys here for you. I spoke about them a few minutes ago in my DFS lineup. Aldrich Estime was the big pickup of the week. Looks like he's taking over the larger role in that backfield. The coach loves him. They drafted him. So that's their guy, I believe, moving forward. So he's a great waiver wire pickup. Gus Edwards, also back from injury. I think he's going to start digging in a little bit to J.K. Dobbins. He feels better. He's looking better. And I think you'll see a larger role with him moving forward, especially we're so deep in this season right now. Gus Edwards might be someone to look at. And finally, MVS, right? 2 touchdowns last week. I don't see that happening every week, but like you said, Carr has to throw the ball to somebody, and he's the guy right there. He does have speed. Olave is on IR, so it's basically you're throwing the ball to him, Kamara, and I guess Taysom Hill. So MBS is available on a lot of waivers right now on many sites. So I think it's a decent pickup, especially with bye weeks. Bye week McGinnon is coming up, right? So he might be a guy you could plug in for those crazy weeks coming.
All right, let me give you my quick pickups of the week. I have Jake Bates. For those of you that lost Harrison Bucker, he is he is owned in 86.1% of leagues on ESPN, but that means he's still out there. It's not 100%. So go get Jake Bates. I like him. I also picked up Justin Herbert in a league. He's rostered in 68% of leagues on ESPN. So again, that means he's out there. He has a great matchup this week. I'm starting him. Go get Justin Herbert. And lastly, I have Geno Smith. He is rostered in 49.8% of leagues. Yes, I know he does not have a great playoff fantasy schedule, but, you kind of have to make the playoffs in order to, try to win your championship. So I still think that Geno Smith is worth having rostered on your team. So go try and pick him up. He is rostered in 49.8% in ESPN leagues. So those are my waiver wire picks of the week. Jeff, go right ahead.
Yeah. Listen, Drake May for me he's looked good. Just like Matt said, like with Justin Herbert, like he's having better starts here. They're letting him throw the ball. I think Drake May, I mean, he's doing a lot on the ground, and especially with the lack of weapons he has on offense, for him to be playing the way he's playing, I think he's an incredible pickup. For me specifically, I have him in a dynasty superflex league. I have him playing this week, and for me, he's been a stud. I've needed him in a couple spots here and there, and he's come through. He hasn't won my week, but he's had a lot of consistency running the ball. The He's had a touchdown pass in each of his last two games. He is a solid and also, or he's hosting the Rams, but they give up yards on the ground, and I think for May specifically, he's got a nice floor just on the ground. He's running the ball. I think especially with how the landscape is looking right now. Like again, I wouldn't start Kirk Cousins. I wouldn't start Jared Goff this week. So there's a lot of kind of iffy plays at quarterback, and I think Drake May is going to have a decent outing against this Rams team. He's still available, I think, on ESPN and Yahoo leagues in like 80% of leagues. So I've picked him up off waivers. I had Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff in another league. I'm sitting both of those. I actually dropped Goff and picked up May because the rest of the season schedule is not terrible. So I got Drake May. I think he's a good pickup. Um, this might be super deep, but I think Mike Williams is a good pickup as well. I definitely think with Aaron Rodgers, I was not feeling it. I definitely did not like the Mike Williams tryout, but again, he was coming back from the injury, and already to be involved with this Steelers team, I definitely think a lot of the attention is going to be going to George Pickens, and if you're really hurting for the wide receiver spot, Mike Williams is known for those one or two big plays a game, and against this Ravens secondary this week, I think he's definitely capable of having that big game. I think he's going to be a bigger part of the game plan especially after practicing with his team for a full week. So again, if you're looking for a start in the lineup or the flex, I think he's a great waiver wire target right now. And this last one is kind of nasty. But Will Disley, tight end of Los Angeles. Um, Justin Herbert again, he's throwing the ball more. Um, the Chargers right now, I think this game against the Bengals, the Chargers have wanted to slow the games down all year, but due to injuries with Gus Edwards, who's now back, and then J.K. Dobbins, who's kind of tapered off a little bit, uh, this Bengals defense is not good. They're not going to stop much, but the Bengals offense is as good as the Chargers defense has been this year. I do not think they have the personnel to stop Joe Burrow because he's playing lights out right now. T. Higgins is back in the lineup, so I think this Bengals offense can definitely put points on the board. And I think because their defense is so terrible against the tight end position, I definitely can see Will Disley, having maybe 5-6 catches, maybe sneaks in a touchdown. So again, with the tight end landscape being what it is, again, Kittle's out, Laporta's out. People are going to be scrambling to get bodies in their lineups. I think he's a super value. He's available in I think it was like 90% in across all leagues. That's like Yahoo, ESPN, Sleeper. Like he's not he's not on teams. So if you're looking for a guy who you might be able to give you those 6 catches for maybe 45 yards and sneak in a touchdown, I think that's a play.
All right, let's end the show with our buy low, sell high candidates. We are approaching the playoffs in fantasy football. Yes, there are different styles and weeks that now that there's 18 games and 18 weeks, 17 games. Some leagues championship is week 17, some is 18. But we have some candidates for you now here with week 11. Kamish, give us your buy low, sell high candidates.
Matt, you bring up a great point. The I've been mentioning it, and the playoffs are just around the corner, really. So I think you got to have your eye on it now so you're ready when the playoffs get here. I'm just going to name a few things before I get into my buy low, sell highs. Just a few things. For instance, Drake London, okay? His playoff schedule is the Raiders, the Giants, the Commanders. That's a guy, if you could go after, I would, because it's an excellent playoff schedule. I think he could put up some big points for you. Another one, a few guys here: Jordan Love, Jake Reed, Josh Jacobs. Basically the Green Bay Packers. They play the Seattle Seahawks, the Saints, and the Vikings in the playoffs. These are guys that could really put together some big numbers on that stretch. And finally, I have Tyrone Tracy. I have Malik Neighbors. Right. I know it's the Giants, and I know they replaced Daniel Jones, who's been, terrible. But I don't think they go down much with Drew Lock in there. But they have the Ravens, the Falcons, and the Colts. I mean, these are three teams that defensively have not been able to put it together. So, these are just some prime examples of guys you should keep your eye on. With bye weeks coming, with teams struggling here and there. I think these are guys to kind of target. But for this week, my buy low, sell high candidates. Okay, I have Debo Samuels. Listen, maybe a hard guy to get, but if you look at his production lately, like last week, wasn't all that great. Jawan Jennings was the most targeted player, played the most snaps as a wide receiver. He's really getting it done. So Debo is a guy you might be able to grab as a buy low candidate. I also like Mike Evans, right? They are on a bye this week. He is expected to return next week. So the team that has Mike Evans, who's been a stud when he's been playing, right? But he's been hurt. You might be up against an owner that is willing to get rid of him based on, hey, I'm not producing big at that position. Neighbors and Tracy, okay, both Giants on a bye this week. Like I said, great playoff um, schedules for both of them. These are guys that I would definitely look at. My sell high candidates one's going to be Aaron Jones, right? He's playing with the rib injury. He's a guy that I've never really liked, but I think that there are teams that love Aaron Jones. I think if you have positions you need to address on your fantasy team, that's a guy I would look to move. CD Lamb, constantly the sun is in that guy's eyes. He is a big name. There's always a Giants fan in your league, I'm sure, and they love CD Lamb. So I would look at their team and say, "Hey, I'll give you CD Lamb, the Dallas Cowboy," and fleece somebody nice for him. And finally, I have Kamara, right? Kamara, who is the Saints offense. I get it, but they are so decimated, right? I think you could turn Kamara into two quality players that you could put on your team, especially with someone who is struggling right now. So they're my buy low, sell high candidates, guys.
All right, real quick, I'll name a couple. I really focus on playoffs with my buy lows. These are guys that I think you can get right now. Bucky Irving, he has an excellent playoff schedule. I actually traded for him in one league. I gave up Cooper Kupp and someone else for Brock Bowers and Bucky Irving. It was Jawan Jennings. I gave up Kupp and Jawan Jennings for Bowers and Irving. I had Debo in that league, so I thought that giving up Jennings was fine with me. I think that I needed a tight end because I have Jake Ferguson, who is just not gonna do it for me with Dak out. I like Bucky Irving. He has an excellent playoff schedule. So, and I think I think you're able to get him. He's on a bye this week, so that's a guy to go and try to get. I also like Calvin Ridley. I traded Keenan Allen for Calvin Ridley this week. So I think people are ready to to sell Calvin Ridley. He has another phenomenal playoff schedule. So buy low, Calvin Ridley. And last but not least, I'm going to say Courtland Sutton. He also has a great schedule. So does Bo Nix. You can go and try to get him before the playoffs. In my opinion, the way to look at it, if you're playing on ESPN and you're able to see, you can even go on online to calculate your playoff odds. If you're a 75% on ESPN or in your league, I think you're able to say, all right, I'm going to say you're probably going to make it into the playoffs. You should probably go and try and get those guys as soon as possible because they will win you your league. So those are my buy low candidates. My sell high candidate is Cooper Kupp. Like I said, I traded him. I needed I needed like 2.16 points from Cooper Kupp on that last drive last Sunday, and he wasn't even targeted the ball on the last drive, which rather upset me. So I'm done with Cooper Kupp. I traded him. He couldn't clearly. Puka Nacua is the guy there, and he's getting a lot of targets, clearly more than Cooper Kupp, and I'm done with him. So sell Cooper Kupp. Jeff, give us your buy low, sell high candidates.
So for me, for who I'm buying low on, T.J. Hawkinson. Again, he's being ramped up, and he's being ramped up quickly. I definitely think he's he's definitely that second option for that Vikings offense behind Justin Jefferson. And he's getting involved. He still hasn't had that explosion, but I definitely think especially with the tight end landscape looking how it is and the playoff schedule for TJ Hawkinson, I believe he has the second or third best playoff schedule for a tight end. So keep an eye out for that. Obviously, my guy Nico Collins. I've always been a believer in him. Stroud's a believer in him, and he's finally back. If you're really hurting and you're looking to, and maybe you have CeeDee Lamb and you're looking to try to pivot him, maybe you can try to get Nico Collins before he's back. Because let me tell you, if this guy's back and he's healthy, he is going to win leagues. I know he's got a tougher schedule for the playoffs, but CJ Stroud absolutely loves this guy. He's talked him up a lot, and Nico Collins before his injury, he was absolutely dominating the league. He was on pace to have the third best yardage in a season. And obviously he's still up there. I mean, he's been gone for 5 weeks now, and he's still in the top 20 for wide receivers. I think he's going to be back. He's going to be ready. He's going to be a focal point in the offense. And then my other buy low, I'm looking at Mike Evans. Baker Mayfield has this. He is playing lights out football. With losing Evans, losing Godwin, and he's still playing at a really high level. Mike Evans is going to come back, and he's going to get peppered with targets from Baker Mayfield. If you're looking right now, they've got the bye, so this is the perfect time right now. Maybe someone's needy at wide receiver, or maybe you can send something that you're maybe a Jawan Jennings plus something. But I think Mike Evans has an incredible playoff schedule. I think he's going to, with this bye week giving him extra time to heal, I think he's going to be ready to return to action, just fully healthy and just ready to just dominate the rest of the year with Baker. For selling high, again, Kareem Hunt, I think he's going to be the running back for the rest of the way for the Chiefs. I think when they bring Pacheco back, I don't think it's going to be for the season. I think they want to save Pacheco, make sure he's healthy for the playoff run to try to do the three-peat. But I just, I see what Kareem Hunt's doing. And, again, he's finding the end zone, which is great. They're definitely riding him into the ground because they're giving him as many carries as he can take. But I just don't see it being sustainable. So again, a lot of teams out there, maybe they're hurting at running back, and maybe they're going to be desperate. Maybe you can get Kareem Hunt, and give him away and get maybe tear down a little and get help at the tight end position, kind of like what Matt was doing to get rid of Cooper Kupp. And then another, it sucks to say because he's been on a heater, and he started off really rough, but Mark Andrews, I definitely would look to sell high on him. He's catching touchdowns, which is great. But looking at this schedule, the Ravens are going to have a lot of matchups that are tough. But the playoff schedule in particular, I think the Ravens are going to be able to run the ball a lot with Derrick Henry. And I don't think Mark Andrews is going to be as needed as much. So keep a lookout for that. But Mark Andrews, he's been playing great, which is awesome. But I definitely would look to try to sell high on him and maybe tear down a little bit and then get a little extra on the side. But that's what I got, fellas.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. That is going to end it here for this Sunday. Thank you so much for listening. Please have a great Sunday. Get those lineups started and have a great day.